Ars Libri is an everyman's journey, book by book, through Western literature. We read, retell, and reclaim our rich heritage. Be sure to subscribe to the show at arslibri.substack.com. This is a scene from the book Crime and Punishment, where the investigator, Porfiry Petrovich, is talking with the main character of the book, Rodion Raskolnikov. Porfiry Petrovich begins talking. You've lost faith, and you think that I am grossly flattering you. But how long has your life been? How much do you understand? You made up a theory, and then were ashamed that it broke down and turned out to be not at all original. It turned out something base, that's true, but you are not hopelessly base. By no means so base. At least you didn't deceive yourself for long. You went straight to the furthest point at one bound. How do I regard you? I regard you as one of those men who would stand and smile at their torturer while he cuts their entrails out. If only they have found faith or God. Find it and you will live. You have long needed a change of air. Suffering, too, is a good thing. Suffer. I know you don't believe in it, but don't be otherwise. Fling yourself straight into life, without deliberation. Don't be afraid. The flood will bear you to the bank and set you safe on your feet again. What bank? How can I tell? I only believe that you have long life before you. I know that you take all my words now for a set speech prepared beforehand, but maybe you will remember them after. They may be of use sometime. That's why I speak. It's as well that you only killed the old woman. If you've invented another theory, you might perhaps have done something 1,000 times more hideous. You ought to thank God, perhaps. How do you know? Perhaps God is saving you for something. But keep a good heart and have less fear. Are you afraid of the great expiation before you? No, it would be shameful to be afraid of that. Since you have taken such a step, you must harden your heart. There is justice in it. You must fulfill the demands of justice. I know that you don't believe it, but indeed life will bring you through. You will live it down in time. What you need now is fresh air, fresh air, fresh air. Raskolnikov positively started. But who are you? What prophet are you? From the height of what majestic calm do you proclaim these words of wisdom? Who am I? I am a man with nothing to hope for, that's all. A man perhaps of feeling and sympathy. Maybe of some knowledge too, but my day is over. But you are a different matter. There is life waiting for you. Though, who knows, maybe your life too will pass off in smoke and come to nothing. Come, what does it matter? That you will pass into another class of men? It's not comfort you regret with your heart. What of it that perhaps no one will see you for a long time? It's not time, but yourself that will decide that. Be the sun, and all will see you. The sun has before all to be the sun. Why are you smiling again? I bet you're imagining that I'm trying to get around to flatter you. Well, perhaps I am. Hee. Perhaps you'd better not believe my word. Perhaps you'd better never believe it altogether. I'm made that way, I confess it. But let me add, you can judge for yourself, I think, how far I am a base sort of man and how far I am honest. When do you mean to arrest me? Well, I can let you walk about another day or two. Think it over, my dear fellow, and pray to God. It's more in your interest, believe me. And what if I run away? Asked Raskolnikov with a strange smile. No, you won't run away. A peasant would run away. A fashionable dissenter would run away. The flunky of another man's thought. For you've only to show him the end of your little finger and he'll be ready to believe in anything for the rest of his life. But you've ceased to believe in your theory already. What will you run away with? And what will you do in hiding? It would be hateful and difficult for you. And what you need more than anything in life is a definite position, an atmosphere to suit you. And what sort of atmosphere would you have? If you ran away, you'd come back of yourself. You can't get on without us. If I put you in prison, say you've been there a month, 2 or 3. Remember my word, you'll confess of yourself, and perhaps to your own surprise. You won't know an hour beforehand that you are coming with a confession. I am convinced that you will decide to take your suffering. You don't believe my words now, but you'll come to it of yourself. For suffering, Rodion Raskolnikov, is a great thing. Never mind my having grown fat, I know it all the same. Don't laugh at it, there's an idea of suffering. No, you won't run away, Rodion Raskolnikov. This episode, we're looking at Fyodor Dostoyevsky's book,
Crime and Punishment.
Crime and Punishment. Dostoyevsky lived from 1821 to 1881. He's considered one of the greatest novelists in the world ever. He's known for his profound psychological insight into the human condition. His books are heavily psychological. Is that right? Or is that accurate?
Yes, that's why I love him.
Okay, so they're not action-oriented books so much.
No, it's funny. There's a lot of action. He packs action into just a few days' time. So much so that you forget what day you're on.
I see.
There's lots of action.
Okay. Kind of like the Iliad. The Iliad took place in just a few days.
Okay.
Dostoyevsky, he was born in Moscow, Russia. He was the second of 7 children. His father was a doctor. And apparently he was introduced to classical literature and fairy tales at a young age. He devoured them. He has many major works: Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, Demons. It's delightful titles.
I've not read Demons, but The Idiot is a great one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's that one about?
Well, okay, I say great. I like it. It doesn't end happily, so it might not be everyone's favorite, but It's about a man who kind of goes in and out of insanity.
Okay. That sounds great.
It was delightful.
Heartwarming, uplifting.
Lovely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Island getaway weekend reading. Kind of, yeah. What? It's like if you're visiting family for Christmas and you don't really want to talk with anybody else, just read The Idiot.
There you go.
You want to ward people away. What are you reading there? The Idiot. He also wrote The Brothers Karamazov and Notes from the Underground, among others. I didn't know this. In 1849, he was arrested for involvement in a certain intellectual group called the Petersburg Circle, and he was sentenced to death. He endured a mock execution, and the sentence was commuted before. He spent 4 years after that in a Siberian prison camp, followed by military service.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this profoundly influenced his writing on suffering and death and things.
Mm-hmm. He faced death, literally. Like he was going to be shot.
Yeah.
And then instead he got to go to Siberia.
Which is probably worse.
Could be.
A quick death or a lot of suffering.
Mm-hmm. In this book, in Crime and Punishment, Siberia serves almost like a purgatory.
Okay. Let's talk about the book then. Crime and Punishment is a psychological novel. It follows, how do you say his name?
Rodion Raskolnikov.
Raskolnikov. He's an impoverished ex-student in St. Petersburg. He murders an unscrupulous pawnbroker woman because he believes himself to be a superior being exempt from moral law, and he does this because he is an atheist, and he also has a basically biting nihilism that sort of torments him. Is that right?
It is. In the book, we learn that he wrote an article as a student explaining his theory of crime and of men. He believes that there are 2 categories of men, extraordinary and ordinary. And he's toying with this idea of, if he is an extraordinary man, do not the ends justify the means? Mm-hmm. And he's talking of men like Napoleon and Alexander. Think of the many people that died, but we still think of them as great men.
Yeah, right.
So he's thinking, well, what is keeping me from being a great man? I just need to take this step.
And do something great.
I need to make an action that other people aren't allowed to do.
Wow, this is basically what Nietzsche argued. The will to power and overcome. Mm-hmm. You have to surpass the Superman, the Overman. is not someone who's just physically stronger. He overcomes man.
Yes.
And all of man's moral and spiritual limitations, like morality.
Right.
You have to do that, and you have to do it through some kind of act of overcoming.
Exactly. He couldn't just believe that there was no God. He couldn't just believe that he was free to do whatever he could.
Wow.
He had to act.
You have to prove it. So he does this. He tries to murder, he does murder a woman and her sister or something.
Yes, inadvertently. So he goes to murder this old woman, and he's thinking, this is actually a blessing for mankind. This old woman, she takes money from people. No one likes her.
Yeah.
So I'm actually benefiting people. This isn't even a crime, really.
Yeah.
And so he goes and kills her, but then her sister, who lives with her, walks in the room, and he feels like he has to kill her too. She's considered collateral damage. But yeah, so it's a double murder.
So he does this, but then he's tormented by guilt for having done it. He actually doesn't transcend morality like he was thinking. There's nothing on the other side of that. There's not overcoming. And he has this guilt and this paranoia. And the book is basically him wrestling with that.
Yes, the murder actually takes place toward the beginning of the book. So it's not this thriller of, I'm going to commit the murder. That's not the focus of the book. Like we mentioned already, it's very psychological. So the ideas that Dostoyevsky is working with is the aftermath of the murder and how Raskolnikov can deal with his conscience, with having done something he knows he should not have done. He knew before the fact that he would know afterwards he should not have done it.
Yeah, so basically this is Dostoyevsky's response, even though I think this was written before Nietzsche wrote some of these things, but this is his response to the idea that we can overcome morality through our superior greatness in doing things like murdering. This is basically what C.S. Lewis did in the Chronicles of Narnia with Uncle Andrew and Queen Jadis. Both of them thought, I am greater. Ours is a high and lonely destiny. We aren't bound by the petty morality that you low people are bound by. Uncle Andrew could use a little girl as part of an experiment. And it's his right to do that because he's a great man of science. And Queen Jadis could utter the deplorable word and kill everyone on her world. Well, why not? These are all minions for my purpose. That's what they exist for, is to serve me. And I have the right to do this because I'm a great being. I'm beyond morality. And the whole idea in making both of those characters look ridiculous is to show that, no, you're not. You're just a human like the rest of us. You're a created being like the rest of us. And even God himself, who is greater, he doesn't treat his own subjects like that, his own created beings like that. He has more mercy than humans. God's more merciful than man.
That's a really good point. Yeah, we're not just pawns.
Yeah.
As though there is, God's not Napoleon or Alexander, just throwing us about.
Right. But even Napoleon didn't treat his men like that. And one of the reasons why he was so great and beloved by all his soldiers is that he knew them by name. He remembered their deeds specifically. And so the same thing with all great men in history. They weren't great merely because they used people to do whatever they wanted, but because they actually understood the real psychology of man, which is he's not something for you to use like a pawn. Anyway, so this book goes through, after he kills these two women, he realizes he hasn't become the Übermensch in Nietzsche's words, not Dostoyevsky's words, but he hasn't become this great man. He's actually sunk now and become worse than he was before, it seems. And so the whole novel then is him having different conversations with people, especially one particular woman, Sonya. And Sonya is the Christian. She's not the only Christian, but she is the Christian to his atheism. So he's the atheist, nihilist, trying to kill someone to overcome morality. And she is the Christian who actually has morality, a moral code, a moral universe, and it's clearly superior to his non-moral, non-universe, black hole, essentially. And what's fascinating to me is how that develops and how in the end things resolve. So can you tell us basically what goes on throughout the novel?
Well, after the murder, Raskolnikov is tortured in his mind, but also in his body. He becomes physically and mentally ill, in and out of delirium, visited by ghosts in a weird way, dreams, visions. He's not sure what reality is and isn't. And I think what Dostoyevsky is trying to show is that his punishment began even before he committed the murder. Just entertaining the idea of it and thinking it was okay already had him in a mental state, an unhealthy mental state, that had alienated him from all of his friends and family. And then he goes and he commits the crime. And instead of the relief that Raskolnikov was hoping for, instead of this rise, this proof that he was trying to get, instead, he's even more tormented in his conscience. And so I think what he's saying is, what Dostoyevsky's saying is, that is the punishment. Like, we punish ourselves in a sense because God has written his law on our hearts and we can't escape it. So even if we were to escape the law, we still have ourselves to reckon with. Like, we are our own judge, executioner.
In trying to become great, he becomes even weaker.
Right.
More of a mess.
And it's not until the end that he does finally realize where greatness is and how he can become great.
Well, like I said, there's that Christian figure, Sonya.
Right.
And she doesn't nag him. This is what I think is great about the book. She doesn't nag him or harangue him or sermonize or evangelically crusade against his evil. She's there merely, as the Bible says, her gentle and quiet spirit just shines and shines upon him.
Yeah, he sees her almost as a lifeline. He sees her sacrifice. She lives a life of sacrifice for her stepmother, her father, and her brothers and sisters. Everything that she does is for them. She has died to herself. Her entire life is sacrifice. So much so that she agrees to become a harlot. And she knows that this is the end for her. That she will not have a life because of this.
She becomes the harlot in order to provide for her family.
Right. They're at the end. There's nothing else they can do. There's nowhere to turn to. The father drinks their money away. He's an awful character. And the stepmother tells Sonya what she has to do, and she does it. And she realizes, I don't even know that the stepmother realized what she was asking the daughter to do. I mean, she did in one sense, but Sonya did it. And it's almost like she was willing to do it, to give herself up for the people that she loved. And Raskolnikov sees this. He sees that she somehow has remained unsullied by the life that she now lives, that she has retained her purity. And he wants to know more. He's attracted to her because of this, because of this purity that he sees in her. And it's because she lives for others. And so he took a life and she gave a life. And so he's coming to her like, what is the difference here? And there's a scene where he commands her to read the Bible to him. And it's the scene of Lazarus. He talks, Sonya gets the Bible, she reads it to him. And it's the story, obviously, of a man who died and was brought back to life. And that is the passage Raskolnikov asked her to read. He sees that both of them in the room, he even says this to Sonya. He says, look, we've both done this. You have given a life. You've given up a life. I've taken a life. We're in this together. And Sonya agrees. She says, yes, I'll never leave you. It's an odd way to connect their lives there. And with Lazarus. So there's this true, actual resurrection. So Raskolnikov realizes he does have to die to himself before he can live, before he can have peace.
Before we get to the end of the book, I want to ask you, why do you think this is a great book? So there's great, good, and decent books in our Western canon. I'm pretty sure, just from the praise I hear about this book and Dostoyevsky's writing, that this is one of the greats. So why is it a great book?
Well, I believe it's a great book simply because the truth, God's truth, wins. And that's why I love this book. And I do consider it one of, if not the greatest novels ever written, because it's not just interesting. It's not just fun to read. It's true. God wins over atheism. The truth of God's world that's written on our souls is triumphant. And he takes you through it. And Dostoyevsky takes you through all the psychology going on in Raskolnikov's head, all of the torment, all of the anguish he's experiencing. And he brings you to this inevitable conclusion. That's what's beautiful about it. It's like God is what's inevitable. He cannot escape it. It's written into his heart, but into the universe. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah. That's the reading that we put at the beginning of this podcast show, where the investigator is talking to Raskolnikov and says, basically, your life is moving in a certain direction and you're destined to some end.
Yes.
And he doesn't say it explicitly in that conversation, but it gets at what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so beautiful. As opposed to other novels like War and Peace, for example, where it's a great book, it's rich, it's deep, it's all of these things, but it leaves you without God at the end. And that's why I would rank this one above it.
Okay.
Because this one aligns with God's word.
So let's talk about the end of the book then. At the end, he's in the gulag, right, in Siberia, in a prison camp. And Sonya's there, and she's been with him, or there at the camp also, but not as a prisoner. And he basically eventually has a come to Jesus moment.
Yes. So toward the end of the book, actually it's the very end of the book, Raskolnikov confesses. He walks himself to the law offices and he says, I've done it. I killed the old woman. He sits through the trial. He answers all their questions. And they decide that because this was not a typical murder, they only give him about 8 years in Siberia instead of up to, I think, 20. They only give him 8 because they realize he's young, he was mentally struggling, and so they're lenient. And he was also very cooperative. He confessed, he turned himself in, all of these things. So he still, however, though he turned himself in, he is still not convinced that what he did was actually a sin. He sees it was a crime because he's being held accountable by the law, but he still hasn't reckoned with God.
Right.
He's still thinking, but she was awful and I didn't do anything that bad, really.
Yeah.
That's still his thoughts. And it's not until he goes to Siberia, and it's not until he's been there for a year, that finally he has this moment where he breaks. He's sort of in an isolated spot with a few other guys, and Sonya's walking, and she comes to him. He probably has chains on his legs, but it wasn't high security. And he sits on a stone, and she comes and she sits next to him. And he just falls on his knees in front of her. He weeps. He breaks down. He clings to her. And what's beautiful is that she said nothing. She did not tell him to do this. She never asked him for a confession. She never poked at him. She was just there. She was there for him whenever he was ready.
A gentle and quiet spirit.
Yes. She was content to wait.
Right.
And it was beautiful. And he asked her for a Bible, and she has one. She gives it to him, and he reads it. And this is finally when he becomes a new man. A year into Siberia, this is actually in the epilogue of the book.
Oh, wow.
So you have to read the whole book, and then at the very end, finally, Raskolnikov is at peace. There's actually a movie made by Woody Allen. And if you know who that is, you probably know it's not a good movie. It's called Match Point, which is, I think, a tennis term. It's centered around tennis. Anyway, the movie opens, and this is why I watched the movie, because it opens on crime and punishment. Either someone's reading the book or you see the book, but that's what it opens on. And that's what had me intrigued. I'm like, okay, I want to watch this. But the whole movie, what it does is it inverts what makes Crime and Punishment so great. So Crime and Punishment ends with Raskolnikov realizing that he has done wrong, that he must repent, and that is how he turns to God. He admits the wrong. He admits his pride, his ego, all of that has to be humbled. The movie, however, Woody Allen's movie, has the main character commit a murder, 2 murders, and the one that is made to look like collateral damage was actually the woman that he intended to murder. So he sets it up like he goes rob an old lady. And then he's running out and he's like, oops, I have to kill this pregnant lady because she saw, whoops. But the pregnant lady was actually his mistress and he was trying to get rid of her. And the movie ends with him succeeding with no remorse, going on to live a life. He was never caught, never found out.
Yeah.
And he lives a life with his wife and children and everything works out just fine. I've never hated a director more for doing that, for totally ripping this story, taking everything that was good from it, ripping it off, and turning it into a successful murder. So he's basically saying the opposite of what Dostoyevsky was saying, that there is no God and that you're not going to be held accountable.
Yeah, well, Woody Allen has a different worldview than Dostoyevsky,
Yes.
I think on a fundamental level. Philosophically, religiously. Woody Allen's real name is Alan Stewart Konigsberg.
I mean, I knew, but I didn't know that was his name. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's born in Brooklyn, New York, and his parents are from Austria and Lithuania. His family spoke Yiddish, German, and Hebrew at home. Alan is a vocal atheist, and so his views are very much of that nihilistic universe. He embraced what Dostoevsky's character, what's his main name?
Raskolnikov.
Raskolnikov is trying to run away from the nihilism, the meaninglessness of atheist worldview, of universe, atheist universe.
Many times in the book, with conversations that happen, it's referred to as, it's simple mathematics. You know, offing this old lady, getting rid of her. It's like, we're just setting the universe right. You know, that's all we're doing. It's simple arithmetic.
Yeah.
And it was this atheism that they were going off of.
Yeah.
And so Raskolnikov, he was like, fine, let's see.
And when he unbalances the universe in that way, justice starts to pursue him and he feels it. Is that how the book, I mean, that's how you're telling me the book works, right?
Yeah, he's plagued by it, but it really is his conscience more than justice because he escapes. They don't know who did it.
What draws you to Dostoevsky and why this book?
This book in particular is, I think, more philosophical and psychological than his others. And I think of it not so much as a novel as I do, this is how I like to get my philosophy. I can't handle weighty philosophy like Kierkegaard or something. I haven't really attempted that, but I prefer to get it in novel form. So if you approach it like that, instead of thinking, oh, this will just be a delightful book to read, if you approach it differently, you end up getting rewarded for that. And I've always loved studying the human soul, the mind, how it's working. And so this book, that's what it's all about. It's about what the soul can take, how much he can take. It's about the effects of sin and those things. And there's so many touching scenes in this book that we've skipped over a ton because there's no way to include all of the plot points in this book. It's a very involved book. But there's so many touching scenes. One in particular, when he visits Sonya, he comes to her and he's beginning to feel remorse. He's beginning to realize, okay, this was a big deal. I shouldn't have done this. And he sees the Bible in her dresser and he says, read to me Lazarus. I want to hear the story of Lazarus. And the way that Dostoevsky writes that scene, it's like Sonya was afraid to read it to him. He has to command her. He's like, read it. I want to hear. And he picks up the Bible and he's flipping through. He has no idea where the story is. She's like, wrong spot. It's the 4th gospel. And she has to go and find it. He's like, read it. And he could tell, though, that she was afraid to read, but that she wanted nothing more than to read it to him. Because it was like, she knew this is what he needed. He needed the word of God in his life. And it was a story of Lazarus. It was the story of a man who dies and then is risen. A man who dies and then is resurrected. And we see that that is what Raskolnikov goes through. It was his own death and resurrection. And I think that's why he was drawn to that story of Lazarus. But just the way that it was written, the way that Sonya reads to him, the feelings that you see in that scene, it's just so powerful, the way that he writes it. There's an article that Raskolnikov writes. He writes it before the story begins. And it was about whether a man who is extraordinary can get away with things that the rest of us cannot.
Okay.
And that was the idea that had taken his mind. That was the idea that he was acting on in the book. And what's neat about the book, though, is that he has to face, in facing his unextraordinariness, he actually does become extraordinary. Because this is what most of us can't do. A lot of us don't want to think of ourselves as ordinary. To think of ourselves as, well, yeah, I have to obey the rules. We all want to think, oh, the rules don't apply to me, though. Or at least not in this case. We want to make excuses for ourselves in lots of different ways. And that's what he does not do at the end. He realizes you cannot do that. You can't make excuses for yourself. We're all held accountable before God. And so in doing so, he actually does become a great man. It's sort of a paradox, that he does this. And it becomes, though, it was a greatness of pride and ego that committed the murder, but it becomes a greatness of humility. This give your life to find it kind of humility that actually leads to peace for him. So he does become great in confessing, in admitting his wrong. That is, I think, what makes him great in the end there.
Yeah.
What's amazing about Dostoyevsky, too, is the way he can paint a character, their personality. The people that he creates are so dynamic. Like the Svidrigailov character is unlike any character I've come across in a book. But at the same time, there's another one, Peter Petrovich Luzin, who is like Mr. Collins. We would all recognize him as a Mr. Collins character. He's very foppish. He's very concerned with the way he looks, manners and propriety and all of these things. But at the same time, he's tripping all over it. He's offending people left and right. He doesn't even realize all of this. And so there's people that we would recognize in his stories. There's people that you know. Like Raskolnikov's mother, like I know her. She's just the way that she talks, the way that she just loves her son to the moon and back, and nothing will shake that. But at the same time, so very simple and almost needed to be coddled like a child. It's like we know people like this. It's just, and he writes them, and they're so real.
That makes a story go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the way that he writes people is incredible, but also the way that he draws out the plot. This happens in, I think I've read 3 or 4 of his books now, and they've all been the same as far as how he does the plot. He packs things that happen are packed into very small amounts of time. It's not very active, though. Like it's not like there's tons of action. It's just that it's very important conversations. It really is more conversations than things that happen. Although there's murders, there's love, there's hate, there's all of these things that are in the book and in his other books. But so much of that we get through a conversation. And no matter which book of his you're reading. And I like that because you're learning about who people are by seeing it in front of you as they speak. You're like, oh, that's why you did this. Oh, you couldn't have done this. He wasn't the murderer. Look at him. Look at how he's behaving, the people who love him, and you begin to realize who they are and their character simply by the conversation that they're having at the moment. And a lot of times it goes back to back, conversation to conversation to conversation with different people. And you're just learning more about the person and their character as you go. And he creates the psychology of the person in front of you. It's like your analogy, an analogy you like to use of what's it called, a chef hibachi.
Yeah.
It's like Dostoyevsky is cooking in front of you and you see it happening. And
I see.
It's great.
He cooks in front of you instead of cooks it behind and brings it all already done. Yeah.
Yeah, to me, the cooking is more fun than the finished meal. The cooking, that's what's great.
Have you read any P.G. Wodehouse?
Yes.
I don't know if you've read it.
No, it's just funny that you went from this to that.
Well, P.G. Wodehouse, nothing happens in his novels. Nothing at all. You go from one apartment to the next apartment. And you drive out of town maybe to go to some country house. But it's just conversation after conversation after conversation. And it can be petty and feel small. To me, it can. But it's hilarious and funny because of the characters.
Yes.
The people. Jeeves and Bertie Woostrom. And how they interact. And it's just so interesting and funny. And then they introduced Aunt Agatha and Anatole the cook. And you have these different people interacting. There's some woman they call the Basset. The Basset. But anyway, he just draws the characters in a very interesting way that makes the story. The plot so much isn't the story, really. And sometimes it's hard for me to get into reading P.G. Wodehouse because there's usually no plot, or the plot is so small, I feel like I'm in a sitcom. And I feel like I'm in this little bitty mind loop, and I need to get out of that. I have to be in a large plot in my mind for me to feel like I'm not trapped. And it sounds like, in some weirdly analogous way, Dostoyevsky writes a small little world, and the plot isn't very large, but the characters are large.
Yes. There's a scene in The Brothers Karamazov with Ivan. It's this famous scene when he gets visited by the devil, and you're almost confused reading it. You're like, wait, is he seeing something? Is he having a vision? Is he asleep? Is he, like, what is happening? And you're just going, like you said, it's like a loop. He's having this conversation, and you forget the context, the larger context. It's like, wait, how did he get there? How did he get into this room? Like, the conversation goes on and on and on, and you forget the larger context of the book. That does happen with Dostoyevsky. You just have to push through and enjoy each conversation. Like, instead of trying to rush through to get to the plot, to what happens next, you really do just have to be there in this conversation, in this little passage, and get from that, and then move on to the next one as you go. Don't try to rush through for the plot's sake, because the plot is not the point, I think, with a lot of his stuff.